Okay, this is chapter 4 in trigonometry 4.1. Let me share my screen here. All right, a lot of things in trigonometry are highly requested, and this is one of them. And this is, like I said, this is chapter 4, and I'm going to be annotating. I'm going to be bouncing back and forth between the the notes in raw form and the answer key. Okay, so I'm going to go nice and slow. This is designed so that you can stop, copy the notes, rewind it, listen to it again. And I have a fairly specific way that I like to teach this. I like to teach the basic shape of sine and cosine and then get 5 particular points and then just draw the shape. It's actually the easiest way to do it. I think it leads to the best understanding and the best amount of achievement in the course. So again, highly requested chapter. So, all right. So what we're doing, and if I would draw this over here somewhere, I would draw just real quick. I need a little more room than you guys would because of the pen is harder to write with. But what we're doing is we're taking we are taking the sine and cosine from the unit circle, okay? And we know this is 1, 0, okay? X is, of course, cosine, Y is sine. We know this is 0, 1. We know this is -1, 0. And we know this is 0, -1, okay? Now, the basic sine graph, and I'm going to say this so many times, but the basic sine graph starts at its midline, and it goes to its maximum, back to its midline, down to its minimum, just like that. And the basic cosine starts at its max, goes through, and here's the midline, by the way, if I were to draw that midline right there, okay, across there, all right? That's the basic look of these two graphs. And that's something you really got to remember. Okay, it's going to make it a lot easier. And, you know, we know from the unit circle that this thing repeats every time it goes around the circle. So it repeats every 2 pi. Okay, so it repeats every 2 pi. Okay, so the basic period of sine and cosine is 2 pi. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a different color here for you. I'm going to be drawing these 4 points real quick, here, 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 and here, because these are the extremes of sine on this graph right here, but I'm going to be doing it in horizontally as opposed to a circular graph. So all I'm doing is taking the basic unit circle and putting it on a longitudinal graph, okay? All right, so here is 0, okay, which is right here. At the sine at 0, of course, is 1. I'm sorry, the sine at 0 is 0. Sorry, it's the y function there, okay? Then this one right here is pi over 2. At pi over 2, the sine is 1, okay? Then here, the sine at pi itself is 0, goes back to the midline. Notice it goes back to the midline. Then at 3 pi over 2, which is right here, 3 pi over 2, it goes down to -1, which is minimum, okay? And then at 2 pi, of course, it's back to where it started. So we're always going to be doing 5 points. And then you know the shape of sine is going to look like that, okay? So that is all I'm doing. It's a pretty simple idea. For cosine, and again, I will change colors here. For cosine, cosine starts at its maximum at 1. Again, at 0, cosine is 1, okay? Then at pi over 2, cosine is 0, which is its middle value, okay? Its middle value. Then at pi itself over here, cosine is at its minimum, which is -1. Then at 3 pi over 2, which is 270 degrees, it goes back to 0, and then it goes to back to 1 at 2 pi. Okay, so again, all I'm doing, and of course I'm gonna make it swoopy, because this thing repeats over and over and over. It goes on and on. Okay, it's not like it stops here, it goes on and on. Okay, but I'm just drawing one period so you can see the basic shape. So probably pause here and really take a good look at this. Again, all we're doing is taking the unit circle on the left there and putting it out on a longitudinal graph. Okay, so now once you get that dialed in, let me change colors again to get this last part here. Okay, so sine, let's just write this down. I don't think you need this language here. I mean, it's something that I sometimes cover in class, but I really think you need this. The sine starts at its midpoint, its basic function. Then it goes max. Mid, then it goes max. Then it goes back to mid. Then it goes to its minimum. Okay? And then it goes back to its mid. Starts mid, ends mid. Okay, that's its basic function. For cosine, it starts at its max. As you can see, I'm coloring that in twice. Then it goes to the mid, right there. Then it goes to its minimum. Then it goes to its mid. And then it goes to its max, right there, okay? That's probably better to write down than when sine is increasing or decreasing. You can see it on the graph as you move around when cosine and sine are increasing and decreasing. Okay, they kind of alternate between it. You can see that on there yourself. I think that's better to write that down. Okay, so I write all those words down or those abbreviations for that, and that'll help you remember the shape. Or you can just kind of remember that's the basic cosine shape, that's the basic sine shape. Okay, and that's going to help you. Okay, I'm going to clear this now, so you need to pause here. Go ahead. I'm going to clear this now. I'm going to go over to the notes, which are already done. What we're doing here is we're going to talk about the full equation for sine and cosine. Okay, this is the full equation, and it's going to take literally the entire chapter to go over this. We are just doing A and B today. Okay, A is called the amplitude. That's easy, and that's the distance from the midline. So if you have if this number is like a 2, for example, then from the midline, its high point will be 2 units above that midline. And below the midline, it'll be 2 units below that. Today, the midline is going to be 0 all the time, okay? Now, B is the period. We know the basic period is 2 pi. I just demonstrated that all the way around the unit circle. Oh, let me get that again. All the way around the unit circle, okay? So, like I said, all the way around it is 2 pi. That's the basic period of it. However, if there's a term right here where I have put B, if there's a term right there, you got to take 2 pi and divide it by B, and that will tell you how long it takes to complete a full cycle, okay? It's probably easier to demonstrate how I'm going to do it just by doing it, okay? And again, this video takes time. Today, we are not dealing with H and V. H is the horizontal shift. V is the vertical shift. V is the midline, by the way. V is the midline. Okay. So again, if you need to pause there and write that down, great. So let's just do this now. Okay. I think you're going to be successful if we just start going through these real slow. So I'm going to ask you for the amplitude of each function and sketch the graph. Now, as you can see, I have the answer key done, and I'm going to show you some features of what I've done to help you, okay? The black line that you see the black line on this problem, and on this problem. That is the basic sine and or cosine function, depending on which one you're doing, sine and cosine function for each graph. We just did that above. So if you look at it closely, right here, this was the basic sine function right here. I have it in green right there. Okay. Remember, midline, maximum, back to the mid, down to the minimum, over to the mid. And here's the basic cosine. Starts at its max again, okay, and it goes all the way over here. Okay, you can see that's the basic function. And what I did is I drew it all the way out, repeating itself, so you guys can see the repetitive pattern. But what is in green is what's going to be expected of you, okay? And I'm going to continue with that color here. Actually, I'm going to go to a darker blue, and you can see a little better, okay? What we're going to do is we are going to graph this one right here, okay? This has a 2, meaning the midline is 0, and we are going to go up 2 and down 2 for our minimum and maximum, okay? And everything else is the same. So what you would draw on a test would be, all right, I know sine starts at its midline to the max, back to the mid, to the minimum, just like that. So that's all I'm going to do, okay? And the period is 2 pi. The period is 2 pi because there is a 1 in front of the x, and we're going to go 2 pi divided by 1, which is 2 pi. So I'm going to label these 0, pi over 2. This is pi. This line is 3 pi over 2. It's really hard to fit it in here. And this one is 2 pi. Okay, so I need 5 points. So here we go. All I'm going to do is say, okay, I know the basic shape, midline. Then I'm going to go to its max. Its max is 2 because the amplitude says it's 2 units above the midline. Then I'm going to go back to the midline. And then I'm going to go down to the minimum and back to the midline. There's my 5 points. And voila, look at that. I got it all. That is what you would produce. What's in blue? I'm doing that many times there. That is what you would give me for a test answer. That's all I want is 1 period, so I can really see that you know what you're doing. Now, of course, the repeat nature of sine and cosine functions would be they just keep going and going and going. And I have that in red for you to see. But what you would do in blue is what the answer you produce for me. Okay? All right. The next one is 1/2 cosine x. All right. So again, the period is going to be 2 pi divided by 1, which is 2 pi. No problem. So again, I'm going to use these 5 points, 3, 4, 5. It goes from 0 to pi over 2 to pi to 3 pi over 2 to 2 pi. Okay, just like the unit circle. We haven't changed anything yet. Now this amplitude is, it's only going to be 1/2. It's not going to go up very tall. So this is a cosine function. And cosine looks like this. It starts at its max and then goes to its middle. And then it goes to its minimum, back to its middle, and then it goes to the max. I'm going to do those five spots, okay? So 1/2 is the max right there. Then it goes to its midline, which is 0. Then down to its minimum, back to its midline, over to its max. All right, there we go. And of course it repeats, okay? So it goes on and on and on, but that's the idea, all right? Now the next one, this is great, okay? Again, the B number is 1, so 2 pi divided by 1 is 2, okay? So 2 pi. So I know 2 pi is going to be the period. The amplitude is the absolute value of that, okay? However, even though it's 2, we're going to flip it over. We're going to change it. So remember, this is the basic sine, how it looks, okay? The basic sine graph. Now, when you have a negative, we're going to turn that upside down. So the pattern I'm going to model is this one, okay? I'm going to do that one. That's the reflection of that, okay? So that is midline, minimum, midline, maximum, back to the midline. Here we go, okay? I'm going to start right here at the midline, which is 0. And I'm going to go down to its minimum, which is 2 units below the midline. Back to its midline, over to its max, and back to its midline. There we go. So in blue, you can see that. That is what you're going to produce on your notes or your homework. I just want the one period. But understand it keeps going and going and going in both directions. Okay, just understand that. Okay, but I just want to see that. All right. You're doing great so far, hopefully. Pause that if you need that. I'm going to continue on with my thinking here. Okay. Okay. Next one. All right. We got, let's see here. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so cosine 4x, no problem. Okay. So cosine, the b term is still 1. So I've got 2 pi divided by 1, which is 2 pi. So it's still 2 pi, no problem. Everything's the same. So I'm just going with these 5 boxes, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. As a reminder, 0, pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi are those 5 spots, okay? The amplitude's 4. All right, I remember cosine is the basic look is this: maximum, midline, minimum, midline, maximum. And I know the max is going to be 4 units above the midline, which is 0. So it's going to start at 4. Go down to its midline, minimum, midline, maximum. All right, and I'll keep emphasizing this. Really good, looking good. There you go, and that's what you're going to produce for me, okay? All right, we got a -1 here, okay. So the same thing, there's a 1 in front of the x. That's 2 pi divided by 1, which is 2 pi. That's the period. And I'm going to use 5 boxes to represent that, okay? And now you've got a amplitude of 3, but it's a negative. So instead of this, I'm going to turn it upside down. And I'm going to go minimum, midline, maximum, midline, minimum. Here we go. Minimum, midline, maximum, midline, minimum. Okay. There you go. Now the last one right here, negative sine x. Okay, we got a 1 there. So that's 2 pi divided by 1 is 2 pi. And again, I'm going to use 5 boxes to represent 2 pi, okay? All right, -1/2. So the amplitude is smaller, it's only 1/2, and it's a reflection. So instead of this, I've got this again, okay? Boom. Midline, minimum, midline, maximum, midline, midline, minimum, maximum, midline, maximum, midline, okay? Okay, there we go. Awesome. We're getting better at this, I hope, all right? So again, pause that if you need that and get that all dialed in, okay? These little drawings that I keep doing right here, these, I'm going to circle them all. I think these little drawings are really nice to do real quick, so you know the shape that you're looking for. And then we get a blank palette, which is going to happen soon. You're going to see the value in that, okay? All right. Next. We got a couple more, and then we're gonna go to like I said, a blank palette pretty soon. Okay. So we got identify the period of each function, then sketch the graph. No problem. The period is, in this case, now I'm changing the period. Look at this is the 2 here. Okay, so this is 2 pi divided by 2, and that equals pi. All right, so this is a compression. So this particular function is going to be tighter. You're going to get the repeats are going to happen tighter. All right. So instead of 4 boxes, remember 4 boxes represented 2 pi. This is going to repeat itself in 2 boxes. And I'm going to have to put some cut points right in between there. I need 5 points. Okay. Because this is quicker. Remember, 4 boxes represents 2 pi on my chart. So therefore, 2 boxes will represent half of that, which is pi. Now, there's nothing in front of this, or there is a 1. So we know the amplitude's 1. All right. So this is what I got to do. I need to do this shape. Okay. Maximum, midline, minimum, midline, maximum. Here we go. Maximum, midline, minimum, midline, maximum. Look at that. See how it's the same shape, but it's compressed. We got a compression in there. Okay. And of course, it repeats itself. That's the red line. A reminder, the black line, and maybe this is worth looking at real quick. I'm going to go ahead and do the black line in the color blue. The black line represents the standard one, just cosine X. Okay. Notice how that's more spread out. But when you compress it, you get more repetitions. Okay. And that's the red line. Of course, I have the pink one being the one cycle that I'm looking for. Okay. So we have the same thing again. Again, the black line is the standard sine X. And we got a compression again. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at 2 pi divided by 2. That equals pi. So instead of 4 boxes, the normal repeating cycle, it's going to be 2. Okay. But I need little points in between because I need 5 points. Sine, the standard sine looks like this. Midline, maximum, midline, minimum, midline. So here we go. Midline, maximum, midline, minimum, midline. Okay, there we go. The red line is all the repeats, of course. And the black line, as I've said before, is the standard one. So I have this whole thing here so you can see how these changes affect the graph, okay? All these transformations. All right, so this one is an elongation. 2 pi divided by a half is 4 pi. So instead of 4 boxes representing 2 pi, now remember, this is the sine graph I have in blue. I'm going to erase it in a second here. That's the standard sine one, correct? That's standard. Instead of 4 boxes before I get a 1, 2, yes, till I get a repeat, it's going to be 8. Okay. So again, so I'm going to start midline. Maximum is still 1. It's 1 because there's a 1 in front of the sine, right? Midline, minimum, midline. So you'd be drawing this. Notice that that's an elongation, okay? Spreads it out more, okay? And okay, good. I think we'll keep going here. So let's do a few more of these. You're getting the idea. So in all of these, as you can tell, what I've done in every one of these is the amplitude is 1 in all of these. And then of course, what's coming soon is you're going to be doing both of them, okay? Okay. Let's check it out. So here we go. This is 2 pi divided by a half. Okay, because divided by 2 is okay. So it ends up being 4 pi. Okay, so there's 4 pi right there. All right, again, cosine goes max, maximum, midline, minimum. Midline, maximum. So here we go. Instead of 4 boxes, it's going to be 8. Maximum, which is 1. It's a 1 because the amplitude is 1. Midline, minimum, midline, maximum. Okay, and there it is. Okay, and again, you can see that it's quite elongated compared to the black one. So the black one, the black line, which is the cosine of X function, repeats itself twice in the time it takes the cosine of x over 2 to repeat, because it's the elongation. Okay. Next one. This is going to be 8 pi. Oh, wow. This is going to go off the chart. So I got to be kind of fancy about this. Okay. So this is going to be a little bit crazy here. Okay. So this is 8 pi. I don't have enough boxes. So I need a lot of them. So I need 16 boxes on this one because it's 4 times bigger than 2 pi, correct? This is 2 pi divided by 1/4, right? Which is 8 pi. Okay, it's gonna be pretty wild. All right, so so I have to back it up a cycle. So remember or I'll just draw half of it. So cosine starts at its max, right? Goes like this, correct? So it would start right here, go down to its midline to its minimum. I'm going to go on to the other one, okay? And then it would rise back up to its midline and then go to its max. So it would look like this if it was going to the right. And going to, I just run out of room. It's just too big. So, and then of course going left, the red line would continue it. Okay, so you need a lot of graph paper on that particular one. All right. The last one there, that one's a little tricky because of how I did it. The last one there is a pretty severe compression, okay? So this is 2 pi divided by 4, which is a half pi. Wow. Okay, that is really tiny. So this thing is going to repeat quite often, okay? And again, sine goes like this, midline, max, midline, minimum. I'm sorry, minimum, midline. There we go. So I gotta find this. Midline, max, midline, minimum, midline. So there we go, right here. This is the one I'm looking for. This thing repeats itself literally in one box. Because remember, 2 pi is 5 boxes. So pi would be 2 boxes. So pi over 2 would be 1 box. Let me say that again. We've been doing 2 pi is 4 boxes. So then pi is 2 boxes, and then pi over 2 is 1 box. So that thing is really a severe compression. Okay. Now, what's coming next is kind of obvious. We're going to be doing 6 of these. These are combining now amplitude and period and sketching the function. This is going to be great. Now, I have taken out the black kind of guideline of the standard. I've taken that out now. I'm trying to gradually get you guys to do it more on your own. But I still, you see the full answer. But like everything else, I'm just requiring you to do 1 period. All right. So here we go. Amplitude's 2. That's obvious. This is 2 pi divided by 2, and that's pi. That's going to be 2 boxes. Remember, in my system, it's going to be 2 boxes. All right. Sine. What does it look like? It looks like this. It looks like midline, maximum, midline, minimum, midline. Here we go. So I'm going to do this in 2 boxes. Midline, maximum, midline, minimum, midline. So you're going to produce this on your notes. If you want to do a couple cycles, go ahead, but there you go. All right. Next one. Amplitude is 2, meaning it's going to rise 2 from its midline. By the way, all of these today, the midline is obviously 0. Making that simple. We'll get to the other ones later that are a little harder. Okay. And now we got 2 pi divided by a half, which is 4 pi. All right. 4 pi is 8 boxes. 4 pi is going to be 8 boxes. Remember, in my system, 2 pi is 4 boxes. So 4 pi would be 8 boxes. Okay. So cosine goes like this. Maximum, midline, minimum, midline, maximum, maximum, midline, minimum, midline, maximum. Boom. Okay, and again, I went the other way just to have another cycle, another repetition in there. Great. Okay, next, amplitude's a half. So it's going to be a lot, not going to go all, it's going to be shorter, okay? And this is going to be 2 pi divided by 2, which is pi. And remember, pi is going to be 2 boxes because 2 pi is 4 boxes. So half of that will be 2 boxes. So I got to do this shape right there, this shape in 2 boxes. Here we go. Midline. Maximum, which is a half. Midline. Minimum, which is negative a half. Midline. Okay. So again, you need to stop and look at that. That's great. Hopefully you're getting the rhythm of this as I keep saying the same words over and over. 3 more, kids. 3 more. All right. So this one, the amplitude's 3, and the period is 2 pi divided by 2, which is pi. That's 2 boxes. Again, 2 pi is 4 boxes in my system. All right. So cosine, I'm doing this shape again. So I just remember that shape. Maximum, which is 3 above the midline. Okay, and I got to do this all in 2 boxes. So it's here, here, here. I'm putting the little tick marks where I need to be. 5 points in 2 boxes. Midline, minimum, midline, maximum. Again, all you need to produce is this. Okay? This one, here we go. The amplitude's 4, but we have a reflection. Okay? And this is going to be 2 pi divided by a half, because it's 1/2 x, is 4 pi. Okay? It's going to be 4 pi. All right. So 4 pi is going to be 8 boxes. So let me mark it. 8 boxes here to here. There's the midpoint. There we go, there and there. Okay. So, and this is going to be a reflection. So remember, sine normally does this, but with the reflection, it's going to go down first, then back to its middle. It'll look like that, this one right here, because of the negative. That's because of the negative. So midline down to its minimum, which is going to be -4 because the amplitude is 4. Back to its midline, up to its maximum, back to its midline. Okay. The last one, this one is, again, the period is, by the way, I didn't point this out very well. This is cosine 1/2 x. Okay. X over 2 is 1/2 x. That's where you get 2 pi divided by a half equals 4 pi. And again, 4 pi is going to be 8 boxes. Okay. So here's 8 boxes here to here. Cut it in half, cut it in half, cut it in half. That's where I need the data. Okay. And cosine is normally this, but because it's a negative, we got a reflection. And it's going to start at its minimum and do that. So minimum, -1/2. Midline, maximum, midline, minimum. And it's going to look like this. Okay. All right, so that is amplitude and period for sine and cosine functions, section 4.1. Good luck.